lot of losses. I'm just trying to shake back. My life was flooded with water without a boat or powder. Fighting addiction, pain, the street life game, depression, man. Here we go again. I had to stand on my own too. The game don't owe you. Haters, they try to fool you. It ain't nothing they can show you. So what the hell you gonna do? Like a diamond in the rough, I pressured up. Man, enough is enough. Pressure bust pipes, I'm about to explode. See, knowledge is key to get me where I'm trying to go. I got sick and tired of running them streets. I know the better way for me to feed my peace. I couldn't raise my kids like the streets raised me. So I changed my route so they can really see that this is the best of me. And cooking up success is the recipe. You're the best of me.
You gotta stay focused, you gotta maintain. You gotta stay focused, you gotta maintain. You gotta stay focused, you gotta maintain. That shit come with the game. Through all these losses, you gotta stay focused, you gotta maintain. You gotta stay focused, you gotta maintain. You gotta stay focused, you gotta maintain. That shit come with the game.
Yo, welcome to the Welcome Legacy Podcast, where real hustlers, dreamers, and builders come to grow. I'm your host, James G. Welcome, former street hustler turned entrepreneur, CDL driver, real estate broker, associate, author, music artist, and father of 12. I've been to prison, I battled addictions, I started from zero multiple times, but I built my business, Welcome Legacy Maintenance, from the ground up with my kids by my side. I've dropped books, I've dropped music, and now I'm dropping gems. This podcast is about transformation, legacy, and leadership for the culture, for the streets, and for the future. So if y'all are ready to build something that lasts, tune in, lock in, and let's grow. Let's get it.
Hey everyone, this is James Welcome, and this is the Welcome Legacy Podcast, episode 11. On this episode of the Welcome Legacy Podcast, we sit down with Jesse Crossman, a man whose journey from a life sentence to freedom is nothing short of remarkable. After serving 19 years, Jesse has not only reclaimed his life, but also found purpose in sharing his story to inspire others. His perspective on resilience, growth, and redemption is one you don't want to miss. Quote of the day: freedom isn't just about walking out of a prison gate. It's learning to live with purpose, discipline, and gratitude every single day. Tune in to hear Jesse's powerful testimony of survival, transformation, and hope. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode, and leave a review so we can continue bringing inspiring stories to the light. Jesse, what's going on, my brother?
Good morning. It's good to see you again.
It's nice to see you too, man. I really appreciate you coming on here, man.
I wish I could have come down to Florida to do it, but I'm just up at the fake beach in Virginia instead of the real beach in Florida.
Yeah, I ain't never been up the beach up there, man. I used to drive them trucks up there all the time, and never really drove it on the coast though.
Yeah, there's a lot. We got a couple ports here, so there's a lot of work for guys getting out. They can come work at the shipyards. They can work running trucks. They can work doing maintenance. It's been really good for getting guys placement, like actual sustainable jobs when they get out.
Yeah, that's sweet. Cause that's, to tell you the truth, getting into a semi truck when you getting out from being incarcerated is one of the best routes for anybody to take. Just coming out here and just trying to do anything, it's not going to work because a lot of people, they check your background and they see certain things and they don't really want to give you a chance.
And there's a good path to making your way, being able to take care of your family, take care of yourself, eventually buy your own truck, start your own company. It really is a good opportunity if people can get on that lane.
Yes, it is. So this interview is broke down in segments. We got like 6 sections. And the first section is early life and background. The first question: can you take us back to the beginning? What was your childhood like and what shaped you most growing up?
It's a hard thing to fit into one because my parents were both addicts or alcoholics. They also got clean when I was fairly young. So I wasn't around. I don't have a lot of memories of the really crazy times, but that kind of energy was still there.
Mm-hmm.
my dad was a substance abuse counselor, but he had also spent most of his life doing criminal things and doing crazy things. So I grew up with the stories of him like helping try to save guys and get them back on track and helping get their lives together, but also about, yeah, I remember we were smuggling drugs across the border and we did this and we had to run from the feds and we had to. And so I grew up with these crazy stories of not really knowing what was normal or what was real.
Yeah.
And in a way, I really looked up to my dad, and I kind of wanted to get his attention because he was so into the recovery world and he spent so much time with the guys that he was working with that I felt like I wanted to get his special attention. So in some ways, that would be doing well in school, and other times I'd be messing up because at least if he was yelling at me, he was paying attention to me. Yeah, my mom had an interesting story as well, but so I grew up with a lot of the dynamics where I was directly or indirectly around kind of the drug world and the crime world. Not necessarily the same way as other people. Like my parents, like I said, both gotten clean and for the most part gotten out of the game by the time I was old enough to remember anything. But I grew up with people staying in our house that were in the middle of stuff. It was exposure. There was definitely some childhood trauma. There were definitely some things that I experienced or things that I witnessed that I wish I hadn't. And I don't know how much that shaped me. I still kind of go back and forth about that. But basically, what happened as far as my journey to get where I was, I did really well in school, but I never really felt like I fit in. Like I never knew what was wrong. I never felt like I really understood. It's interesting, not that long ago, the doctors put me through this long list of neurological tests because of my motorcycle accident. And they were like, you're about as ADHD as somebody can be. Like, how have you functioned this well this long? But they never put me on meds. I never got that treatment. And, a lot of the tests that they gave me, I guess I just like learned how to like kind of fall in the middle. So they were like, yeah, you're just normal like everybody else, when apparently I'm not. But yeah, I started getting in trouble when I was like 13 because I wanted to run around and get high and hang out with people, and then I stopped doing that for a little while, and then I got back into it, and then the journey really turned dark when I was 18. Actually, I guess I was 17 when I found cocaine. First hit, that first line was like, oh, this is the thing I've been looking for my whole life. Like this is the thing that makes me feel like everything's okay and everything's better and I'm good enough and I'm smart enough, and from that point on, I just went running and basically had a 3-month run of doing cocaine every day. Carrying guns, doing crazy stuff, committing a robbery, committing a shooting, just like completely losing my mind, but not even knowing how I got there. How I went from like taking a year off before I was going to apply to college and go on, do hotel restaurant management to then just ended up in trouble.
Yeah, that one thing changed your whole trajectory of life. We kind of had similar upbringings because I was in the same situation. I got on that stuff too, 17 years old. It was a roller coaster for like 12, 13 years, damn near. It's you think you're just having fun, right? Think you're just having fun and everything is all gleam and like it's all pretty and this and that. But once you get into it, it's hard to kick, just like with any other addiction.
Yeah.
And having certain people in your corner, like you lose a lot of people too, because a lot of people want to keep you doing the same thing. Because they benefiting off you for doing the same thing. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, I think I learned who my real friends were when I got locked up, because rather than being out on the streets, being able to hook them up, being able to run around with them, all of a sudden I see who actually cares about me when I'm not around or when I can't do anything for them. And that was a wake-up call. That was a wake-up call of who really cared about me in my life.
Yep, the same thing with me, because when I sat down, when I had to go sit down, my mama wrote me 2 letters a month. My sister wrote me about once a week, and then one of my friends, he was in prison too, because me and him was running together, but he went to prison before I did. He would send a letter to my sister for me, and then she would send it in her letter. So we stayed in contact the whole time. But other than that, nobody want to put no money on no phone. Then nobody want to do anything for you. No matter how much stuff you supported these people before you left the street, it's like everybody forgot about you. And it doesn't matter if you have to do a day, a month, or whatever time you got to do. The love you gave them, it's like you just disappear. You're not there no more. So it's
I do
great.
a lot of work in the juvenile center, and that's what I tell guys is like, yeah, you might be in here for a day or for a week, or we got a couple people doing juvenile life. But I always ask him, I was like, man, how long you think that person can stick with you, or that girl, or that whatever? Like the people who you think are close to you, or the people you've done everything for, or the people that you're sitting down for, like, are they really around? Are they really holding you down? And it's interesting when you see them just like flip that switch and be like, oh man, what am I doing? But the thing is, they just got to get out. And that's what's so hard is so often they go back to the same home or the same neighborhood or the same dynamics, and they got nowhere to go. It's like, we just need to give them a break, get them somewhere else. Exactly.
How did you first get introduced to the street life, and what path led you into the justice system?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was growing up with a dad who was telling me stories. Like when I was a little kid, he would tell me stories about like stuffed animals, but at the same time, yeah, we hijacked this truck and then we did this and then we had a shootout with the cops, and so I'm exposed to this. I'm exposed to like mob stories, thinking this is normal, think this is what everybody does. And then also thinking it's cool because my dad, as much as he wasn't doing it anymore, he still had that gleam in his eye because he loved that stuff. Like the reason he did it for so long is because he loved it. So it
Mhm.
was hard for me to recognize the trauma because he didn't share the bad parts. He didn't, at least not until later. He didn't share the downside and all the suffering and the people that he lost and the people who went away for a long time. He just told me the highlights because that's what he wanted to talk about. So I
Yeah.
was introduced to it really young and really honestly. But I stayed away. Like, I mean, I sold weed and stuff to pay the bills. I did kind of hustles that I think anybody does when they're trying to figure out how to make ends meet. But it wasn't until cocaine when I started getting paranoid that I started picking up a gun, that I started like seeing things in a different way, that I started being willing to take things from people, that that really was a moment that kind of shifted my mentality. Because up to that
Mhm.
point, yeah, like I said, I'll sell weed or I'll do whatever, but I wasn't really in the streets getting in trouble. I wasn't hurting anybody. I was definitely not trying to hurt anybody or be involved in anything, but cocaine just kind of flipped the switch for me.
Like I say, it's just a totally different animal than weed, man. Weed have you sitting there, relax, want to go eat everything in the refrigerator, and then that thing have you up, moving around. Sometimes you be up for days. Then you hallucinate and seeing shit that ain't even there. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
process.
We were staying in a hotel for a long time. We would run to the blinds at 2 in the morning, be looking outside, seeing who's there to see us. We're watching cops on the TV all day, all night. Like, what do we think's going on? We're watching cops on cocaine. Of course, we're gonna be going crazy looking out the window. But I mean, that was what led us to it. Is just being out there, and we were gonna do a breaking and entering. Yes, about entering the justice system. We were gonna do a breaking and entering because we found this family that one guy said had all this money, and if we just broke in when nobody was there, we'd be able to get all this money they stole from their undocumented workers because they never reported anything. And we went there. We waited till they all left, and we went to go break in. And it turns out there's somebody there. So when instead of a break and enter, it became a robbery because the maid of the house was still there. And all of a sudden, my co-defendant has a gun to her head and is tying her up in the laundry room. And it's just like, man, what the fuck? What are we doing? Like, we're just trying to find a bag of money so we can get more coke, not realizing we're traumatizing this individual and this family is going to come home to their home being ransacked. And then separate from that, a couple days after that, after we managed to get some more coke, we were kind of like on the run again. One of my buddies got a call from his girlfriend, and she was crying because she was at their trailer and she was pregnant, sitting at home, and these two guys had shown up and were threatening her, saying, "Oh, you tell so and so he needs to come by. He needs to bring us his gun. He needs to bring us his money, bring us his cocaine," because they had sold him a gun, and then the person they stole the gun from had reported him, and they were like, "We need to get this gun back, or we're going to prison. So you're going to give it to us, or you're going to." When you're asking for cocaine or a gun, like, you clearly don't care about the gun. You're not worried about trying to get out of trouble. You're just strung out like we were. We were all just
Yeah.
crazy. So when they were threatening her after everything I'd done and everything I'd been through, I wanted to be the hero. So I got on the phone and started arguing with them and going back and forth. We ended up meeting. I had this moment of clarity, like, bro, we're both carrying guns. Like, somebody's going to die. I need to leave. So I left in that moment of clarity, and they chased me. And as we were driving down the road, the guy in the passenger seat was waving his hands and threatening, and I'm just trying to look ahead and trying to, like, just not get into it. And I see him reach around behind him back through the center console like he's going to get something, and I figured he was going for a gun, so I pulled my gun out and fired, and I'm just lucky that I didn't kill him.
Tough, man. See, we make haste decisions when we're not in the right state of mind.
Yeah, very true.
And some of those decisions can be life changing. You have to go sit down in a cage for all that time for just one decision in your life. And a lot of kids, just like now, the era now, like, it's so much more violence going on with them kids, and it's like everybody's influenced by something. Even if the people that they being influenced by never live their life, because it's all in the music, it's all in the TVs, and it's a lot of people. Like your dad watched the movies, right? So had you watching those movies, like telling you like it was a movie, right? The life story that he was living, and you was like, yeah, man, I probably want to try that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, like I say, that one experience, man, that one experience changed your life. Like I got some family members that's doing life right now off of chasing addiction, and one of them shot his uncle up. And it's just crazy, man. Like, your whole family go against you, man. It's terrible. All right. When you receive your sentence, what went through your mind at that moment?
I remember sitting there, and the total sentence was 138 years.
Oh,
They
man.
suspended 106 years. But, they had told me I was going to get between 8 and 13 years that morning. Like, that's what I was expecting. So when I got that number, it was two things. The first, that my whole life, like I said before, I didn't feel like I fit in, or I felt like there was something wrong with me, or I felt like I wasn't good enough. The first part, what I felt like, this judge, like he went to law school. He knows this is his job, and he knows I'm not good enough. He knows there's something wrong with me. He knows I'm basically no good. And I just felt that pit in my heart that I've been feeling or running away from my whole life, that like something's wrong with me and I'm beyond redemption. And then the second part of that is it started kind of creeping up, was like, no, this is BS. Like you told me I was going to get 10 years or 8 to 13 years. Or, this isn't fair. This isn't right. And it wasn't a mature sense of like what was okay. It was just me feeling sorry for myself. So it was this sense of I'm not good enough, this unworthiness, but then it was also this anger of like, hey, this is BS. Like this isn't okay.
That's a hard pill to swallow, though, especially facing that amount of time.
Yeah. I mean, and there's no really grasping it. Like, I think that's the thing, is people always ask me, kind of like you said, like, what do you do? When you've gotten a sentence, when you get time, you can't explain that. Like, you can talk about it, but like, it's just this hole in your heart. But then you get up day after day and it becomes a little more real and you find a way to deal with it. It's an ugly thing, but it really is hard to explain if you haven't been sitting there. And yeah.
Yeah. It's rough, especially looking at it as just being 18, and then you're like, dang, I gotta sit here. Then they hollering about 100 and some years. You're like, man, I ain't gonna never come home out of this. And that one decision changed your whole trajectory of your life.
Yes, it did.
Let's hit this one. Your prison, it's a segment 2, prison experience. How did you mentally?
Sorry, you broke up for a second. Can you say that again?
I say segment 2 was prison experience. How did you mentally and emotionally adjust to prison life in the early years?
Kind of like I was saying about the sentence. In the beginning, I didn't adjust. I was in denial. I was angry. I was mad at the world. I was mad at myself. I didn't know how to cope. But slowly, it was just having no choice. I was going to sit in that cell and I was going to be mad and staring at the wall, or I was going to sit in that cell and I was going to read a book, or I was going to do push-ups, or I was going to talk to somebody, or I was going to play cards, or I was going to get an education. And I was really lucky that I had people who were in my corner, who believed in me, who wanted me to get an education, who wanted me to do something with my time, who told me like, yeah, you got to be there, but they can't tell you what you do with that time. So you can choose to make the best of it. And I really took that to heart. And I said, you know what? You're right. If I'm going to be here, I'm going to make this the best damn time I can spend. I'm going to read every book. I'm going to teach every class. I'm going to learn everything. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to do every job. I want to be as prepared as possible. I want to get as much as I can out of this experience.
So you turned the bad experience into the educational experience.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Because a lot of times we don't, like when you're being free, you have the free will to do whatever you want to do. Right. But then when you have to get put into that solitary confinement of that cage, you're sitting there looking at, okay, if I'm going to use this, I'm going to be here. I got to be here. So let me figure out a way to use this time. With me, I didn't get my diploma. I dropped out in my 12th grade year. Dumbest thing I did, but I got arrested. So when I first got in there, I said, man, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get my diploma. I got my diploma. I got tile setting. And when I got out of there, I went to school for auto repair and refinishing. People don't know how to use that time. And a lot of people go back in there, they try to become a worse criminal. And they read all those gangster books and they try to figure out a way to, hey, man, when I get out of here, I'm going to rob a bank or something like that. They don't change their mindset in there at all. And they come home worse than they went in there. Because I know... Absolutely. I know a lot of family members, before we left the street, none of my family members, like, wasn't nobody in no gang or nothing like that. I would never go on no gang. And so as soon as they get in there, they come home. Now they a blood gang or whatever else. Everybody claiming this, and this is crazy, man. But a lot of people get in that stuff like that just for protection because they can't stand on their own. Were there specific people, mentors, or moments that influence you to shift your mindset while being incarcerated?
Yeah, I feel like my journey really was a series of finding the right person at the right time. And sometimes that was somebody on the outside and sometimes that was somebody on the inside. So, it was my mom enrolling me in classes and saying, no, you're going to do something with this time. Like you're going to do something with this time, whether you like it or not. And then on the inside, I had, I lived with a guy who turned out to be a serial killer, but he was the one who was giving me like lesson plans and vocabulary lessons and helping me with schoolwork and basically giving me stuff to improve myself. And I found out his backstory and lost my mind. But it was people like that over the years that I just met who just, for whatever reason, they wanted to share something. When one guy had a PhD in English and he said, look, I want you to become a better writer. I'm going to give you homework. You're going to write essays for me. So I wrote essays and we talked about life and we talked about philosophy. And I just kept finding one person after another. And it really was the same thing as saying, hey, I'm going to do something with this time. It's, man, I'm in this place. Let me find people who know something I don't know. Let me find people who see the world in a way that I don't understand because I want to learn. And I acted like a sponge. And everybody I found, if they had something to give or something to teach me, I wanted to learn. I wanted to see what it was. And I just picked up everything that I possibly could. And I continue to do that for the next 19 years.
You manifested it though. You really did. Even in that situation, bro, listening to this, you manifest the education and the knowledge, and it came to you, right? And it opened your mind up to make you into the person that you become today, right? Who would have thought that that sentence that they gave you, you would have been able to give back? You didn't give back all the time, but you gave back some of that time, so you didn't have to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right? And you really made the best of that time that you was in there. How did you maintain hope during such a long sentence, especially with no guarantee of freedom?
You know, the truth is that I didn't always maintain hope. And I always try to tell people that because they'll be like, man, I'm in this place and I don't see a way forward and I'm hopeless. And I always tell them, like, everybody I know who's been through something, myself included, we've had those moments of not seeing the horizon and not feeling hope or not feeling like there's a way forward. And that's a part of it. So a part of it was recognizing that I'm done. Like, I don't have anything left today. And whatever that means, whatever I need to do to get through today, whether that means I'm just going back to my cell and I'm going to sleep, or I'm going to go do, I'm going to go work out, I'm going to go whatever. I'm just trying to get through the day, because even if I don't feel hope today, I know that tomorrow or next week or next month, eventually I will feel hope again. But for me, it was coming to accept that I'm not always going to feel hope. I'm not always going to see a way forward. I'm not always going to have an understanding. But as long as I keep putting one foot in front of the other, there will come a day, not that it's just going to be okay, but there will come a day that I will believe it'll be okay, or I will feel that sense of hope that it'll be okay.
Yeah, consistency too. Consistency and just believing. Because a lot of us don't have that mentality. Because little step forward. And when you're in a situation that you feel like you can't win or you kind of stuck, right? A lot of us go in that and they just sit down and they just lay down and they just give up on life. And a lot of us don't have people to push us too.
Very true.
And if you don't believe in yourself, no matter what situation that you're going through in life, if you don't believe in yourself, you really won't never make it. Because everybody ain't going to say, hey, man, you're doing a good job. They ain't going to always pat you on your back and say that. You're going to have to cheer yourself on and tell this is my life and I have to live it my way. Mm-hmm. Right? Because I went through the same thing, man. Like life be lifing, and it put you in situations and it take you through paths, but a lot of those paths, it kind of like chisels the bad stuff off and to make you the person that you really need to be to take on this journey of life, right?
Absolutely.
Let's go. What role did faith, reading, or education play in your personal growth behind the bars?
Each of those was vital in a different way. I didn't have a formal faith or a religious faith, but what I had was this belief that, there was something bigger in the universe and it was going to make things okay, or was a part of making things okay. And sometimes what I had to come to believe was that, things would work out for this other person, because so often the struggle is this person I love on the outside is struggling and I can't do anything to help him. Remember, my grandfather needed a new roof on his home and they wanted to charge him $30,000. I was like, I'll go do that in a weekend for like $2,500. This is BS. They're trying to take advantage of my grandfather. And I had to have hope that it would work out. And sure enough, he found somebody who was a neighbor who had a son and had a cousin and managed to get the roof done for something he could afford. But it was those things where I had to just trust that it was going to be okay, that it was going to work out. But reading and education were really the path for me finding liberation or finding freedom. Because when I realized that I could be more than I thought I could, when I realized I could accomplish more, that I could understand more, that I could play a bigger role in the world, all of a sudden I didn't feel trapped. Because that feeling I'd had my whole life of being like small or not being good enough, when I realized that I could actually do more than that, when I realized I could be more than that, all of a sudden I started to feel free in there because I was in a position to give. I could tutor guys, I could mentor guys, I could help guys, I could elevate where they were at and elevate their lives or elevate them and their families. And all of a sudden my life had meaning. But I didn't have that without education or without reading or without basically developing who I was in my relationship to the world. Because without that, I was just a guy sitting there feeling sorry for himself. But once education gave me the opportunity to contribute to other people's lives, I found that purpose that made it okay no matter what was going on. No matter how bad it was, I knew I was going to be okay because I was going to find somebody to help, and that was going to get me through the day.
And a lot of people don't like to read. A lot of people go around with second, third grade education, and they don't realize that it's a lot of hidden gems in a lot of books. Absolutely. And they're there because a lot of people don't like to read them. So a lot of things, it could be right in front of your face and you don't even know it's there because you don't even open it up. That's why they say never judge a book by its cover. Can you share a routine or habit from prison that you still carry with you today?
So I'm in a hotel room right now. I travel a lot for work, but being in hotel rooms is probably the most comfortable I've been since I came home from prison because it feels familiar. Like it's not exactly the same, but it's like it's a room. I got a bathroom. I don't have to go anywhere. I know, like I'm good. I know where everything is. I don't have to worry about anything else. So it's weird. But when I go to hotels, and I had this bad accident last year, so it's not the same. But I would do my same prison routine every time I came to the cell. I would get up in the morning. I would brush my teeth. I would make myself some coffee. Then I would do burpees. I would do the same burpees I did in the cell. I did the same burpees I did in the dorm. I would start my day off like that. I would do my reading. I don't have the book with me today, but there's a reading book that I've been doing since prison. It's basically a daily meditation book. And I was looking at that and I would pick it up and I would read it and I would sit with it and kind of like let that inform my day or inform my energy for the day. And then I would go on about things. What I realized is if I start the day off doing something difficult or I start the day off doing something meaningful and having some kind of structure and like invest into myself, no matter what happened the rest of the day, it ain't gonna be as hard as in 500 burpees. The day is gonna be okay.
The way you set your tone for the day with meditation,
Exactly.
with your exercise, you're already creating a success pattern. And a lot of times, we set our tone when we first wake up in the morning and you get up, you do your exercise, you do your reading. So you're setting up a good day to push all the negative energy. Because when you start out great, you don't really have no negative energy. And if you win the morning, you beat the day.
Yeah.
Because same thing. When I get up in the morning, I come in my bathroom, I do my prayer, I make me a cup of coffee, I come back, I sit down, I write my affirmations. Then I do my Bible study. I go do my workout. And by that time, you know what I mean? It's time to go ahead and load up and go ahead and head to work.
Mm-hmm.
That with my mindset, it's like, yeah, I'm set. So it's like a high energy. I'm not vibrating on a low vibration. I'm on a high vibration in the morning. And that carries out through the whole day. That's pretty good. Some habits we need to keep. You don't need to break them.
Absolutely.
So there go this one. This one say, what was the biggest challenge of serving 19 years and how did you overcome it?
I think it was twofold. The first was not knowing what to do with it. Until I found that purpose of being there to help other people, to mentor and tutor, I struggled because it was meaningless. We can do anything when we have a meaning or when we have a why, but until I figured out that why, that was my struggle because I just sat there feeling sorry for myself. Even when I was getting an education or exercising or bettering myself, I didn't feel like there was a reason. I didn't feel like I had any reason or understanding of why I was going through the day. And then the second part was the fact that I didn't know when it was going to end. Like I remember I woke up, I used to mark off, I figured out what the halfway point of my sentence was, or I figured out what the quarter point of my sentence was. And every time I thought I was going to get somewhere that was good or was meaningful, and rather than getting more and more hope, I got less and less because I started feeling like, man, I can't do this again. Like this is just going to break me. It feels like it's taken away from me. Like you said in the beginning that it's like cutting away the weak pieces of us or cutting away parts of us that we don't need. It felt like it was starting to cut away parts that I need, and I felt like I was starting to become less. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to get through it. It was like a different level of hopelessness or a different level of confusion because I knew how to do all the things, but it started to not feel like enough. And if it hadn't been for receiving the conditional pardon and just getting out with an hour and a half's notice, I really did worry that I was going to end up being less year after year after year. And I was, rather than growing or changing for the better, I was going to change for the worse.
But you was in there writing programs and stuff too, wasn't it?
I was. And I think COVID really hit it because, I was teaching programs, I was teaching Spanish, I was teaching nonviolent communication, I was teaching yoga, but during COVID, they shut everything down. So all of a sudden we were back to not having those opportunities, or everything I was doing was informal, or then we were locked in the cell, and then I got sent to a dormitory, and they tried to write me a charge for teaching a Spanish class. They were like, no, y'all can't congregate. I'm like, bro, we're all in here in this dormitory, like within arm's reach of each other, and you're talking about this is a COVID violation because I want to do something meaningful? So it felt like one thing after the other was making it harder to even do the things that I wanted to do to help other people or help myself. And that was when it started to really be a challenge, and I started to kind of lose hope again.
Anytime people, they took that COVID thing very extreme with every situation. They closed down everything. It was like martial law. Cause I was out, when it hit, I was in a semi truck, and I had my son with me. And the company called me. He done been riding for the last 2 years. So they called me and it was like, well, due to COVID, we can only have one person in the truck now. So you have to take your son home. I'm like, what? Like, it's just me and him in this truck. Like, you know what I mean? Now you want me to take him home? Like, what kind of mess is that? That was crazy. But it wasn't no cars on the road. Everybody had curfews and everybody bought up all the toilet paper. It was a mess. Let's hit segment 3, release and reentry. How did you receive the news that you would be released, and what emotions did you experience?
Yeah, this is back in 2021, still in the tail end of COVID. And I had just finished doing a set of burpees with a buddy of mine in the dormitory, and I was going to get on the phone. And when I was going to get on the phone, the counselor started waving her hand and trying to call me in her office. But I thought it was weird because she was really strict on the COVID stuff. If you weren't wearing a mask and she wasn't wearing a mask, you couldn't come in her office. But she was calling me in there and she didn't have a mask on. So I walk in the office, I'm looking around thinking kind of confused, and the phone is off the hook and somebody's on the speakerphone. I walk in, she says I'm there, and the person on the speakerphone says, "Mr. Crossman, are you sitting down?" And I look around like, "No, why?" She said, "Because you've been granted a pardon. You're going home today." And I remember just like being stuck for a second, and then it kind of hit me, and I like almost dropped to a knee and just started tearing up because I was like, "Wait, I'm what? Like I'm going home?" Like, because I woke up that day not believing that I was getting out for years, like not believing there was any hope of getting out for years, and being told that I was going home. It felt good, but it also felt numbing. It felt like too much. Like I didn't even have the ability to process it. So I just kind of went into automatic mode, and they said, "Oh, well, you need to go do this." And so I went, and I still hadn't taken a shower, so I went and grabbed my stuff, ran to the shower, took a shower real quick. They were calling me from the booth, so I went and grabbed my ID, and I walk up front, and that's when I see the paperwork, and I'm like, "Oh, this is real. Like this is from the governor. Like I've been granted a pardon. I just got to sign." Like, but up to that point, and really over the next couple days, even I was just numb. I was just so overwhelmed. I didn't know how to process.
That had to be a numbing situation because you still got some time left, and then all of a sudden you're free and you've been confined in this spot for all these years. So this basically kind of like all you know when you went in there when you was just very young.
Yeah, my entire adult life. I'm like, you want me to start over today? Like I'm almost 40 years old. I don't know how to do this.
Yep. All right. What was the first thing you did when you stepped out of prison as a free man?
So when I finally got up to the front, I got to walk past the line that says no inmates past this point. And I remember that was when the emotion started to well up again. I was like, oh shit, like I really am free. I can walk past this point. I walk up and my mother was in the front of the prison, but I couldn't see her because I had to keep signing paperwork and doing whatever. I remember finally I get my paperwork, I get the stuff I'm carrying, and I drop it. I give my mom a hug and I pick her up. And she whispers in my ear, she goes, "Jesse, let's get the F out of here." And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's go. So we walk outside, and I'd been dating this woman, or we had this woman who was a reporter. We'd become friends, and then we'd started a relationship. I didn't know. I was like, "Hey, have you told Courtney that I got out of prison today?" Because like she thought I had a lot of time left. And she said, "Yeah, I told her she's on the way." So we just went to wait for her. So we pulled out the driveway of the prison, and there was a driveway right next door to like a cornfield, the farmer's cornfield. So we just sat there, and I remember just sitting there watching cars drive by, and like technically I was in a car. It wasn't that different, but I just remember all the colors felt so bright. Everything felt so big, and so like I didn't even know how to understand it. And then she came and pulled in, and all of a sudden this woman is like standing in front of me, and like I'm actually looking at her. I'm giving her a hug, and I'm giving her a kiss, and it was real in a way that it hadn't been. And yeah, so basically what I got to do is I got to meet my mother and meet this woman and like feel free in a place that was away from all the craziness, where I felt safe, where I felt like I could start to feel like it was real, though I still didn't really fully understand it. But just being in that space was amazing. Like I didn't know how to even process it.
It was different for you.
Yeah.
After all, like I say, that's a long time, damn near 20 years to sit there, and then you get to hold somebody in your hands, and you get to see stuff that you haven't seen. Because being in a situation like that, you can find in those walls, man.
Absolutely.
And some of the prison that I was in, they didn't even have no grass in it. It was all concrete everywhere. So when I walked out of that door and I seen my sister and stuff, I start like just start crying, man, like tears coming out my eyes. And then I went and grabbed the grass because I ain't touching no grass. Like it's a different type of feeling.
Yes, it is.
There you go. How did your relationships with family and friends change over the years of your incarceration?
Like I said, in the beginning, I figured out who really cared about me and who didn't. Those people who were willing to take the phone call, or willing to write a letter, or willing to show up. By the time I got out, most of the people that I was close to were people that I had either never met before, or I didn't know before I went to prison, because I'd met them through a letter or a friend of a friend or a pen pal or somebody put me on the phone. And so I developed all these relationships that were so different from everything I knew before. In the beginning, you talked about how we need to change our mindset and then change our environment. What that did was that allowed me to surround myself by, even if not physically, just like in my relationship, surround myself by people who were living lives that I wanted to live. Rather than people in the old life and the BS and still in the streets, I was talking to people who were successful successful, who were doing things that I admired, or doing things that I wanted to do myself, running businesses, working with nonprofits, donating their time, donating their hours, donating their money, like making a difference in the world. So I got to develop these relationships and build these relationships that really meant something to me, and that still means something to me today.
That's sweet. So you built new friends while you was inside the people that empowered you, that was on the same path as you, when you still got those same friends and people in your corner to this day.
Yeah, exactly.
What surprised you most about the outside world after 19 years?
I mean, everything was overwhelming, but I think what surprised me was I was so excited to go meet with people and talk to people and hang out with people and do things. And I felt like everybody was just living their life on the sidelines. Like everybody was just, everywhere I went, nobody was talking. Everybody was staring down at their phone. I would walk in a room and be like, there are 50 people in here. Not a single person is talking to another person. Or I would go out and I would see people just, in a beautiful park. And rather than enjoying the park or going for a walk, they're just sitting down looking at their phones. I just remember thinking the tragedy of, like, we have all this world out here, and I've been waiting all these years to get out to this world, and nobody's enjoying it. Nobody's really living it. Everybody's just stuck in some digital world, or everybody's stuck on some problem or their Instagram post or whatever. It broke my heart because it made me feel like everybody was living in a prison of their own.
And that did, because that changed, them phones and stuff really changed a lot, man. It ain't really like no people engagement. My kids, this thing too, because about homeschooling. My kids have been homeschooled for the last like 5-6 years. And so we was trying to find like some homeschooling groups for my kids to interact with other kids that's in homeschooling groups. And so my wife was reaching out to some of the moms and all that stuff there, but them kids is like, nah, they don't really want to go to no park. They don't really want to, they don't really want to do nothing. They'd rather sit in the house. They do their little schoolwork, and they'll rather just sit in the house, play games, or be on the phone. And it's terrible. But with my kids, we don't even allow them to have no phone. Like my oldest daughter, she got one. Finally, she just turned 18. She graduated, and we gave her a phone. But everybody else don't have no phone. And they got to do 40 minutes of exercise a day outside. Whatever, we got about 3 acres, so they go outside and run around, play basketball, or deal with the animals or whatever else for 40 minutes, and then they got to read for an hour a day, and then they got to do their coursework between like 9 and 12. So we're not raising them like the society is raising everybody else.
Get it?
All right, let's get this one. Purpose and legacy. How did you find your purpose after being released?
It's kind of the same as the purpose I found in prison, was that when I was only focused on myself, I just felt selfish and I felt small, and it never felt like enough. But when I realized that life really was about showing up for other people and allowing other people to show up for me and building connections, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to find a way to give back, because I felt a lot of guilt getting out of prison that I was walking out and other people weren't. Because there were people who had worked just as hard as I had, who were just as deserving, who didn't get that chance for whatever reason. And I was determined to not leave them behind or not forget them. So one of the reasons I started talking about prison on social media was, one, because somebody told me and I didn't know how to make decisions, so I did whatever people told me. But the second reason was I want people to know that there are good people inside. I want them to know there are good people who would do just as well as I'm doing out here if they were just given that chance. And I knew I wanted to contribute. I started applying for jobs. I mean, I took jobs doing carpentry and working for a publisher and just doing like small random things because I knew I needed to pay the bills. But I started applying for big nonprofit jobs, trying to do advocacy or trying to do reentry work or trying to figure out a way to give back in a meaningful way. And then I had the opportunity. I met somebody at a party and we had a conversation, and I told him I was on the 6th round of interviews for this big national nonprofit. And he said, I want you to do something instead. I want you to start your own nonprofit. I want you to focus on whatever you think would be the most impactful. And he said, I'll pay you so you can pay yourself whatever that nonprofit would have. So all of a sudden I started Second Chancer Foundation. So not only am I doing videos and am I working a day job and I doing other things, all of a sudden I'm getting to go into the juvenile center and put on events and teach programs and bring in speakers and have family days and do things. Get to set up a mentoring program. I get to go in the jail and bring in speakers and have events. I get to do something that feels connected to that purpose of not letting people believe they're forgotten, or letting people know that there are people out there who still remember them. And that was really, for me, what it was. And that's, I wrote a book that's coming out in March. I've spoken all over the country. I've worked with nonprofits, with businesses, with conferences. I've worked to just basically let people know, one, I want you to know that there are good people inside, and two, that I want people to be free, and not just the people inside. Those people are out there on their phone, stuck in their little prison. Those people were in the prison of trauma or the prison of addiction. I want people to be free, and I want to do everything in my power to connect with that and have actions that are consistent with that.
Everybody deserves a second chance. It's a chance. Right? Just because you're in prison doesn't mean you're a bad person. You just made a bad choice. Just like we make choices. Everybody make choices, even if y'all have a little bit of direction sometimes, but some of us just want to learn on our own. And it take us learning on our own to realize that the path of life that we chose is not where we want to be. What the name of your book? The Best Part of Prison? The Power of the Second Chances and Reclaiming Life Out of Darkness.
That's it.
March 10th, 2026.
I'm excited. When I was sitting in prison, I used to write essays. I used to write all the time. And I remember the first time I submitted something, I remember a dude was like, bro, nobody want to read something you wrote. Like, don't nobody care about us. And I remember the first time I got an essay accepted for publication. And I remember the first time I got a check from a magazine. They were paying me for an article. And I just kept believing, but I was like, man, but it won't really be enough. And then I got out and, when I got an agent, I was like, a book agent wants to work with me. And then I got an offer and then I got another offer and then I got another offer. And I was like, man, people actually care. Like there's actually something I can do with this. Because for all those years, and this is really what I go back to in prison is all those years I did stuff. I wrote letters, not believing anybody would answer. I wrote, essays and eventually wrote a book that I didn't believe anybody would ever read. I did things for me. I did things because I believed they would make me better. I did things because I believed they were important. And eventually people responded to those letters and people read those essays. Now people are going to read this book because somehow I had to believe in myself or believe in this process long enough that we would catch up and it would become possible. And there were a lot of people along the way, like that guy who said, man, what are you wasting your time for? Nobody's going to care. But I cared and I kept going and eventually it led to this point.
Your path for life ain't the next person. So a lot of times we get some noise coming from the outside and try to damper our path, and that really ain't got nothing to do with them because we going two different ways.
Yeah.
So keep going, keep pushing. That's all we could do. All right, here we go. What advice would you give to a young man who feel like the streets are their only option?
I work with a lot of the kids in the juvenile center and they'll tell me that. And there's one kid I can think of especially. He grew up in the gang life. His whole family was in the gang life. Like that's what he knew. And that's what they told him was the option. But the number one thing he wanted when he got out, he said, man, I want to help other people not make the same mistakes I did or not feel trapped like I did. And he got out, he got his GED, he's going to college, he works at the Boys and Girls Club, he's working with other kids, and he's basically going back in. He's going back in to say, hey, you don't have to take this path. Like you can take my hand and I can take you somewhere else. So I would say to somebody who feels like the streets are their only option, like if you stay in that place with those people, that may be true. Like there may not be an option for you where you're at right now, but there are other places and there are people that want to see you succeed regardless of who you are. Like I want people to be free. I don't care what your name is. I don't care where you live. I don't care where you come from. I don't want to see anybody take that path because they feel like they have to. And if there's any way I can help, I will. And I know there are a lot of people around this country who believe the same way, who want to figure out a way to make you succeed or give you a path to something else, because I don't want to see people living that life if they don't want to. I mean, if people want to take that path, that's on them. I respect everybody's choices, but I don't want to see somebody stuck in that way because they feel like it's the only option they have. And I will do anything in my power to make sure that's not the case.
A lot of people feel that there's the only option because that's the environment that they was raised in and they don't know nothing else. It's like a lot of people grow up with dreams and goals and parents was like, oh, well, you can't do this or you can't do that. And then they really liked it that. And then they want to push their perspective of their life on them and change their trajectory of their life at a young age too. And a lot of people just be pushed to things that they really don't want to do themselves.
One of the kids at the juvenile center, we got a furlough for him. And so we took him downtown. He was actually supposed to speak at an event, but that ended up falling through. So I remember I took him to a fancy restaurant. We took him up on the roof and he got to eat. And he asked the waitress, he was like, man, I'm not trying to be funny, but I don't know what none of these words are. She's like, well, that's French. It's okay. But he ordered his meal. He had a great time. But what was really changing for him was he was an artist. Actually, I was wearing the shirt that he made earlier. We took him to an art gallery, and the woman running the art gallery was like, well, let me see some of your work. And so the officer who was with us pulled up some of the stuff that he'd done, and she was like, yeah, we would love to show your stuff here. And he looked around and he was like, wait, you would let me put my art here? Like you're saying I'm good enough to be here? And she said, yeah, absolutely. And then we took him to a job fair, and at the job fair, they're like, hey, we would love to have you. Like, if you'd be interested, this is what we could pay. And he just saw that there was a place in the world for him other than the old stuff that he'd been doing. And people actually would listen to him, and they wanted to talk to him, and they wanted him to come bring his art or bring his skills or bring his strengths to work. And all of a sudden he realized there was something else out there. But if it hadn't been for that, if it hadn't been for that outreach, and whether it was us facilitating it or him just being open and taking that outstretched hand, if it hadn't been for that, he would have continued to believe that the only world for him was the world he came from.
That hand up. That's what y'all offered him. The hand up to show him something totally different than what he's used to. Yeah. And then open his eyes up and like, yeah, it's way more to life than just this. That's what a lot of these kids need. Because they got to realize that they're the next generation. And a lot of them are still, they're very lost, man. They're very lost. How do you handle the weight of your past while building a new future?
I worried a lot about that. I remember being inside and wondering, is any woman going to want to date a guy who spent almost 20 years in prison? Is anybody going to give me a job? Is anybody going to rent to me? But over the years in prison, I no longer felt the shame that I did. Really, the shame I felt for my whole childhood, for my whole life. I started to see myself in a different way. So I understood that people might judge me, but I didn't judge myself anymore. And that was the biggest thing. When I'd gotten to that point where I could see value in myself. And what I found was coming out to the world, yeah, some people have said some nasty things or some people have dismissed me. But for the most part, when I am open and I am vulnerable, what I've gotten is a positive response. So I don't feel a weight of my past. I feel like I have had the opportunity, like I wouldn't recommend this path for anybody, but I have had the opportunity to learn about myself and learn about the world in a way that most people don't. Most people don't have the opportunity to read and study and meditate and learn and grow the way that I did. And I have something of value to offer. And so every situation I go into, I come in with that mindset. And I also come in with the understanding that some people are going to reject me. Some people aren't going to like me. Some people are going to say nasty things about me. And I'm okay with that because that's a lot more about them than it is about me.
So basically, you don't worry about that past. Yep. The past made the person that you is now, and strong mind, strong everything. All that other stuff really doesn't matter. And you get no's, but you're going to end up getting some yeses too. You just got to keep going. What's your perspective on forgiveness, both forgiving yourself and others?
Yeah, I would say it was a lot easier for me to forgive other people than it was to forgive myself. Because forgiving other people, what I finally realized was about like taking that burden off of my shoulders. It wasn't even about them. It wasn't even about making it okay for them. It was, I don't want to keep carrying this pain or this hatred or this anger or this frustration. I want to let that go. So I can forgive somebody. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to re-engage with them if they're doing the same stuff they were doing. I can forgive somebody and understand they did what they did for whatever reason, but I don't have to carry that with me. I don't have to basically continue to be hurt or angry about something 10 years or 20 years or 30 years later. So forgiving other people was easy because I realized it was in my best interest. But forgiving myself was hard because it felt like I was giving myself permission to mess up again. Or like if I forgave myself, then I wouldn't be a good person anymore. If I forgave myself, then the people that I'd harmed, like, it wasn't fair to them. But I had a thing happen in prison where, for years I used to just hate myself. And anytime I would talk about the things I'd done, I felt this shame or this guilt, or I didn't know how to deal with it. And then one day, I remember I was talking to the psychologist about the crimes that I'd done. And I was like, man, I don't feel that guilt anymore. Like, I don't feel this weight. Like, I felt kind of uncomfortable. I talked to her about it. I did whatever. But it stayed with me. I was like, what's going on? What is the difference? I remember I went back to my cell and my cell partner was gone. So I was by myself. And I sat there and I was asking myself, I was like, why don't I feel guilty anymore? And I heard this voice in my head. It was one of the craziest things. It said, because you're not that person anymore. And I remember wanting to cry because I was like, I'm not. Like, I have done the work. I have shown up every single day as a different person to where I really am not that person anymore. I would no longer do those things. I could no longer do that. And once I realized that, forgiving myself was not about excusing what I did. It was about recognizing that I've done the work to change.
Forgiving yourself is a big step. Forgiving people is too, because if somebody did you wrong and you're holding on to a burden, it is kind of like a burden on you, and it kind of like gnaws away at you for a very long time. I had one of my cousins who was like brothers growing up. Some crazy mess happened, and he called me, talking kind of reckless, so I said some things back, and we didn't talk for years. And the other day, it was like Monday. Some say, man, just call him, right? So I just got on the phone. I got on the phone and got his number, and I just called him. And I was like, hey, man, I'm just had to call you just to check on you, man. Like, I ain't talked to you in a minute and such and such. And it kind of like, it was like, you calling me? And I was like, yeah, tight, you know what I mean? And we just talked. And it's kind of like lift the burden off of my chest, because we hold on to certain things that we shouldn't. It could be simple stuff, and when it comes down to family is generally all you have, especially if y'all are close. And forgiving yourself for past mistakes. I know I made a lot of past mistakes. I know I poisoned a lot of people out here doing the things that I was doing, and I know I had to forgive myself for it, because I kind of sometimes I still beat myself up. I still beat myself up for a lot of the stuff that I did. I tell myself every day, I say, man, I could never in my life go back to the person that I used to be. That person is done, and you're becoming the version that your kids need to see. That one was the one that they didn't need to see. They seen a little bit of them, but this is the person you need to be, to lead them, to guide them, to give them the structure, to give them the love, to give them just give them the best version of yourself possible. And it has been a task, because you still have torment. It's like one is pulling back and forth like a lot of times, but I try to keep putting one foot ahead of the next and just, you know what I mean? Just stay grounded and, just look at my family every day and like, man, I ain't no way in hell I'll go back to the person I was. And that kind of helps me through it. What message do you want people who are currently incarcerated to hear right now?
I want them to know that there's a future and that it's like an investment strategy. Like what you put into now, what you invest in now is what you're going to get in return. And so a lot of times when guys sit around and they just want to like get high and gamble and do stuff, they're investing in that life, and that life is what they're going to find when they get out. And other guys are reading and they're studying and they're getting a trade and they're finding a way to do things differently, and that's what they're going to find when they get out. But it really is, we were stuck away in a place where we felt like we had no power, but the truth was we did have power, even when we were locked in that cell, even when we were in shackles, because we had the power to choose what we invested our time and energy in. And that is what's going to determine the course of our life, even more than the fact that we were in prison. So I want people to know that they have a choice, and that choice is going to have a huge impact on the life they live. And so I hope they make the choice that leads them to the place that they want to be.
So either grow or stay the same, because a lot of them that goes inside of that, like I said before, they try to figure out a way to become a better criminal, or they sit there, they gamble their life away and don't read a book, don't do anything, don't get your diploma, don't try to get a skilled trade, because now they got so many different trades inside of the prison. They even got CDL trades inside the prison if you got like 5 years or so, 3 to 5 years. So they giving us opportunities inside there, and it's all about if they want to take it or not. So use your time wisely. Just don't sit there like a bump on the log.
Exactly.
How can communities better support returning citizens so they don't fall back into the same cycle?
We talk a lot about the support or the resources people need, and I think that's legit, and I'll talk about that. But I think the other thing is we need to be held accountable. We need people in our lives who are going to call us on our BS. If you think about like, somebody in your family, a grandma, or like what you would do for your kids if they're messing up, you're going to tell them they're messing up. And I think so often we either have people who won't give somebody a chance, or we have people who let them get away with everything. What we need is somebody in the middle who is going to hold them accountable. And we do need access to housing. We do need access to jobs. We do need access to education. We need support. And the main thing, though, is like when I think about when somebody comes out and they say, man, where else am I going to go but back to the streets? We need places that are open to them. We need a church, or we need a job, or we need a community that are willing to welcome people in. And part of that is being able to hold them accountable, which says, yeah, you can come and like come to our event, or come to our barbecue, or come work with us, or come live with us. But also, if you're messing up, we're going to tell you you're messing up. And finding that balance of opportunity and holding people accountable is really where we give people the best support, because I know when I mess up, I want to know I'm messing up. I may not like it in the moment, but overall, I want to know that I'm messing up so I can move towards a better version of myself, because I want to show up for the people who are investing in me, or the people who are believing in me. I don't want to let them down. I don't think anybody wants to let somebody down. So part of that is having the opportunity, and then part of that is being held accountable and made to basically act right.
Yeah, correction. Because in the Bible it says, spare the rod, spoil the child. That goes for any age, though. So if you're messing up and you're being corrected, a lot of people might take it the wrong way when you're telling them, hey, man, you're messing up, man. You need to get on track. They might take it the wrong way. But a lot of times it's because somebody care and they want to be there for somebody to help them get off of that path and try to straighten it out a little bit. All right, this it right here, the last one. What legacy do you want to leave for future generations through your story?
My hope is that people can see that we don't have to be defined by the worst thing we've ever done. Mm-hmm. People can feel like there is a path forward no matter where they're at or how many mistakes they've made. And that path may look different for everybody, but that there is a path. But ultimately, I want people to have that hope. And I also don't want people to lose sight of the fact that, this life is worth living. Like, there are a lot of beautiful things in this world. And I know I get stuck in this growth mindset, or like, if I do enough, then I'll be enough, or I do enough, then I'll have enough redemption, or I do enough, then I'll have made enough impact. But the reality is sometimes we just have to live. That's why my girl was like, hey, we haven't been to the beach all year. So yesterday, you know what? I've been working crazy hours. I've been doing stuff nonstop. And She got me to come down here, and now we're sitting in a hotel room. We walked on the beach. We went and jumped in the water. We took the time to really experience that. Like, turn our phones off, turn the world off, just be here with each other in the water, on the beach, in a place where we need to be. And it takes a lot of work to get there, but I want to make sure that at the end of the workday, it's not just getting ready for another workday. It's enjoying things with family. It's enjoying things with the people we love. It's enjoying the things around us, because this is an incredible opportunity. It's a blessing to be here right now and to have all these things around us. And I want to make sure that I am enjoying them, and I want to make sure other people are enjoying them and not just locked into their phones. You know, if you make it out of prison and all you do is end up that same person locked into their phone on the bus, like, bro, that really ain't that different than being in prison.
No, it ain't. Tell us again, but the name of your book?
It's called The Best Part of Prison by Jesse Crossman, coming out March 10th, 2026.
Sir, this has been an amazing episode, bro. I really appreciate you taking your time out and showing up for me.
Absolutely. I appreciate you showing up for everybody around you.
And just trying to be the best version of myself. I appreciate all the work that you're putting into the communities as well. And keep doing your thing, man. You know, you got my support 100%.
Yes, sir.
At the end, it say uploaded. You're saying 99%. It's going to fully upload it
Okay.
right before you get off there. So when we stop it, and then it'll say uploaded, and then we should be good. But I'm going to chop it up, and I'm going to tag you in, and I'm going to send you some of the clips.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Thank you, bro.
Absolutely.